start. And it is 5:30, so we'll start. And we're going to try and, move quickly because it's Valentine's Day, and I don't know whether any of you have some special
Some hot
things
dates.
to do.
Yeah, a hot date.
I know one of us does, right? Daryl. So we'll begin. So we do have a quorum plus, which is great. We're all here. All of our regular members and our alternates, which is fabulous. So the first thing is reviewing the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? I have a motion to accept them.
Motion to accept.
Okay, Daryl, second,
I'll second it.
and second by Shane. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Okay, so minutes are accepted. Okay, under old business, update on the Baldwin Hill property. Lindsay has been, some of you know her. What's Lindsay's last name? Larson. Lindsay Larson, has been facilitating, meetings with the, Washington Community Housing Trust, kind of helping them, go along with the Baldwin Hill project. So there have been a couple of meetings. There's another meeting next week.
Are these meetings to talk about doing samples for the soil
This
still?
is to,
This is still-
like, she's keeping everybody on track, which is
Okay.
excellent. So she writes up the minutes and says who's in charge of doing what, and so I think that's helped.
Oh,
But
for
we-
on behalf of the housing trust?
No, trying to get the housing trust on track.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we aren't too far along, although Mike Alex does have the deposit for doing the survey.
Okay.
And supposedly he is going to get it going on it last week, but I have not heard from Bill Fairburn, whether or not that has been done. Bill contacted Mary Jane Soul, who's a scientist, a soil scientist, and he was waiting. She did return his call. He had called a couple of other people who had not returned his call yet, and he was going to talk to her, but as of today, I have not heard from Bill. He was gonna let me know what happened, but I haven't heard from him. So we haven't gotten too far yet. We're working on it, but all these projects, I guess we have to assume they're all gonna take a long time, especially, we're listening to that presentation that Michelle and I went to a meeting last week before. These projects just take a long time to get going. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? He has also he's waiting to hear from Ken Rika, who's also a soil engineer, but hasn't heard from him either.
So basically for Baldwin Hill, there's just
We're waiting,
waiting.
we're still waiting.
I just saw Lindsay logged on.
Oh,
and
good.
Lindsay, in the meeting this morning, there was a somebody new to me. It was Environ or something doing testing of, I don't know, in Salisbury. Is it worth trying somebody else?
Well, the Environ is an environmental consulting firm, and they're reviewing the groundwater monitoring that's happening at a contaminated, I shouldn't say contaminated, at a site in Salisbury that had a dry cleaning facility on it at one point. So it's Arcadis that's doing the testing, and Environ is reviewing the report from Arcadis, but those are both environmental firms. So
Okay, so different.
that was a long way to say no. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, I learned now what that company does, because I just heard, pre-development and Environ. I thought it sounded like possibly an engineering firm that could do soil stuff.
Yep, I did want to add, we Jocelyn, David Berto, and I met with Ken Ricka last week on a variety of projects, and he is working on a proposal for Washington for engineering services. So
Okay,
hopefully, Bill will hear from him, if not this week, next week.
good, good to hear that.
Okay,
Great.
that's great.
So, I'm sorry, but we're sort of in a nowhere zone because we've given Michael some money to do
The
the
service.
survey, which gives us soil density, such and such and such. So we can figure out if we can build something,
Right,
and Michael's just
Mike-
kind of,
No, he doesn't do the soil.
No,
He's just doing the survey. Ken Rickett, we need the engineering firm to do the soil samples.
but, and they won't do it until they have a survey.
and Mike's dragging his feet to the point where is it time to get someone else?
Well,
I
he's
mean,
got
not
to
that,
check
not,
for.
not that he's a, you know, a local guy, I get it, but, you know, Roy Cheney, who's worked for Mike for years, who decided branched off on his own, is looking for,
Okay,
I mean-
what's his name?
Roy Cheney.
I guess, you know, I can talk to Bill and see whether or not,
I mean, at a certain point,
I
everybody's
know.
given a fair shake, and if you can't fulfill your obligations or you're
Yeah.
uninterested, maybe.
well, to be fair to Mike,
Yep,
apparently there's some health issue in,
If there's
With his
something like that going on, then
grandson, yeah.
absolutely, then he deserves the break, but,
yeah,
you know, it's just,
yeah, I know, it's
I
been,
mean,
it's so many.
gotta move on.
been
Yeah.
a long time. It's-
Exactly, okay,
And just to clear, the Baldwin Hill property is the, what, 4 acres, mostly woods,
yes,
on the
yes.
depot side of the top of Baldwin Hill?
On the depots,
Yeah, I think it's
That way.
technically before you crest the hill.
yes,
Yeah.
on the
3.79.
And I've got
Yeah.
the setback right here too.
So it's like 2 lots down from the Salem Church on the depot side of Baldwin Hill,
Right.
But on the other side of the road.
but on the opposite side of the road.
yeah, other side of the
But
road.
just before you get to Salem Church, yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments about that? Okay, so the Habitat for Humanity, home buyers workshop is going to happen tomorrow at 6 p.m. here at Town Hall. Unfortunately, I looked at the, you know, the selectmen's blast and it wasn't able to get in there this week, but it was in the week before. And Michelle put a few flyers around town. But we don't know, you know, who's gonna be able to show up or who knows about it. I mean, I have been trying to, you know, tell people that I know that it's happening. We'll see what happens, but it will be recorded so that if, you know, we can also advertise that it's being recorded. And people can look at that. So are there any?
And
questions?
this is a workshop to be a part of their program, and this is like helping people understand their sweat equity program and stuff like that.
Well,
right?
it's to help people understand how they could purchase one of the houses.
Okay,
And whether they would be eligible or not, and how they would go about it. And then I hope that, well, I hope also that we'll be talking a little bit about how community members can assist.
Right.
In the progress of
and
it,
what's the time tomorrow?
6 p.m.
So I did, someone from, the bank is gonna be there.
Oh,
So
good.
it's very specific, I think most of it is geared towards a potential home buyer and going through the criteria. Actually, Diana said that they've gotten some good response from people from Washington, but they hadn't met some of the criteria, so she added some of the basics to the flyer, because it's kind of hard, like every situation is a little different. But the 4 points that she added were that you have to have a annual income of 60,000, you have to have a credit score of 650 plus, you have to have a good repayment history and 2+ years at a current job. So some of the people that had reached out didn't meet those criteria, so I'm interested in learning tomorrow a little bit more about like who the window of target audience is. We
Right.
also had somebody who was local inquire, and they apparently made too much money. And it didn't seem like a lot to me, so I want to learn
Yeah,
exactly who, you know, who the target audience is.
What I'm curious about is, could somebody who currently owns a home, which is maybe not big enough for them now, could they apply for it, I wonder? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I just heard about that kind of.
Well, I mean, I think it's based on the idea that a first-time home buyer is somebody who hasn't bought a house in 5 years,
Yeah,
right?
Is it 5 years?
I mean, that's what it was when we bought our place, but I don't know if
Well,
that's
and
changed.
I think that's the criteria used for the down payment assistance program, that's their definition of first time. But, I don't know
Yeah, I don't
what
know.
criteria Habitat uses, each
Right.
program is slightly different, but. That whatever Habitat follows, is similar enough to the CHAPA.
Well, that
that-
was my next question. Are they sort of within those guidelines as
Yeah,
well, 80%
which is-
of income and stuff like that? Great,
Exactly.
okay.
And that's why, the state, when they communicated with the state, the state said that the Habitat homes will be allowed to go on our affordable housing list because of the chapter,
Gotcha. Okay,
because of the guidelines, so.
copy.
So that's good. The only other thing I would say about Habitat is, I haven't been over there in a long time, but Dave Workoven stopped by and he lives close. And he wants to help with the project, so he kind of keeps that, he said that things are happening. He's seen trucks, I think they started digging the foundation or put some forms in or
Both,
something.
both foundations are 100% done. They've got the first floor deck and a
Wow.
wall up on the lower,
Nice.
the lower house. Electrical power was piped went in this morning.
Wow,
Wow,
That's cool.
nice update. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
well, you need to be our contact. Thanks, Daryl, appreciate that. Good. Okay, so, Michelle and I were both at the, Northwest Connecticut Regional Housing Council meeting this morning. That's a council that, is attended by all the resident, not all the either councils or, commissions, trusts. Yeah, that have to do with housing in the northwest corner of Connecticut. So we were informed that the governor has sent to the legislature in the budget, his budget, a request for $300 million for each of 2 years to go for affordable housing. 150 million for new projects and the rest, I guess, for rehab. So let's hope that goes through and that helps with affordable housing here, and probably might not help us here in our small towns, but maybe it will. We'll see. Well, hopefully.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
I feel like, so the Housing Trust has applied for the CDBG grant 2 years in a row now, which is Community Development Block Grant. With the partnership of the town to do almost $1 million worth of work at the apartments on Grinspoon. And both
Dodge
times were denied, but I think the pocket of money either last year or the year before was like 20 million. So this is a significant increase. So
Did-
maybe this go around.
So is this gonna be grant money as well? Because that's different than the federal money that you're talking about. $300 million. So how,
No,
How is that allocated?
That's what the governor is proposing for the new
Governor, for the
pocket.
Connecticut
For this
budget.
yeah, my
Connecticut.
question is that
Are we-
allocated to each community? Is that grant money? How is that distributed is my question.
Well, the housing.
Through the Department of Housing.
Yeah, Department of Housing will do that.
Okay.
If it's passed.
If it's
Right.
Right, yeah, well, they have to,
Did they give you any, I'm sorry, did they give you any reason why we were denied 2 years in a row?
that hasn't, they haven't done a debriefing yet.
We've asked for one and we're hoping, what did David say, by March, that hopefully those would be scheduled.
In the next
As soon
couple
as
of
we were
weeks.
denied, we asked for that.
And that's CDBG money is what you're talking about?
Yeah. And it's frustrating because it's expensive to apply for those grants.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the and actually Housing Commission gave money to the Housing Trust to do the environmental studies for the first application, which was $10,000. And because of the timing of the application, they were allowed to use the same study for the second round of the the next year. I'm
Now, who
hoping,
knows?
I'm
Next year.
hoping they don't have to repeat that. And then there's the $3,000 fee to David Berta to assist with the grant application. Which, and I spend a lot of time on it too. It's like a folder of information that we have to have a hearing, and we have to have all of these sign. Poor Jim is signing papers for, we have to say that we won't discriminate and that we follow these kinds of laws and that we have these ordinances, and it's just a huge packet of information to apply. So, we'll see. We're scheduled to meet with David Berta and get a debriefing, and so hopefully that will be forthcoming, we'll find out.
Jocelyn also, reminded us that there are more than 9,000 residents in Northwest Connecticut that are paying more than 50% of their income for housing. So we have, a long way to go to meet the needs. I mean, it's all over the country, it's all over the state, and it's here too. Let's see, another thing, Emily Hultquist from the Council of Governments, she emphasized the importance of building around village centers. And she suggested getting employers in the area to support affordable housing financially. So we might think about that for the future, contacting employers and getting them on board with that. The Haystack project that we had a presentation on has started construction, which is very exciting. And then other members of the council reported on where they stand with the affordable housing projects that they have. So Canaan is going to have their first affordable rental units. There's quite a few rental units and apartments that were spoken about. Salisbury purchased an old home that was in good condition, old. And they also have a potential for 90 units on some property that they have.
Yeah.
And yeah. And Jocelyn talked about how the fact that, that we are not near the transportation hubs. We have no public transportation around here virtually. We're a car dependent community. But we need the support that all the other communities need as well. In fact, maybe we need more support because we don't have that transit, because people who are paying more than 50% of their income on housing are not going to be able to afford, a car that's dependable to get them to work. So those are some arguments for that. Did you want to add any more?
I would just say part of the reason that she mentioned that is because a lot of the state focus is building affordable housing near
Around transit,
right?
yeah.
And it's a criteria for a lot of the grants. And so I think that was when she was talking about the legislative advocacy, but the legislature is in session right now, and there are multiple things that they're looking at, and just reminding them that the rural communities don't have these transit hubs, but that doesn't mean we don't need it.
So, thank you for that, Michelle. Sure. Okay, so Michelle and myself and Denise Arturi from Steep Rock, the three of us attended the Connecticut Land Conservation Council conference on February 1st. It was held in Hartford. And the purpose of it was to link land for conservation with land for affordable housing, and that they're not mutually exclusive goals. That you can do both on a piece of property, or you can meet the goals of conservation while you're meeting the goals of affordable housing. And it was a very, very interesting conference. Did write some notes, really good. Some of the things they talked about it, what is a community land trust? There was a community land trust representatives. And that's land that's owned by the community. And the housing is privately owned. That's for working class people, people starting their careers, seniors. And they talked a lot about energy efficient buildings, sustainability. Let's see, what other notes? So some of the presenters suggested inviting the land trust into the conversation about affordable housing. And I think having Denise there was very helpful. So the conserved land that we have in Washington or anywhere, could it be better used for affordable housing? Who knows? I mean, some of it initially when Steep Rock was taking land that was being donated to them, they weren't very discriminating. And so some of the land might, there's possibility might be better used for affordable housing. You know, if we got in conversation with them, it's a possibility.
Judy,
Judy.
add a
Judy.
clarification for the minutes that this was the CLCC Housing Summit, because CLCC also does an annual conference, which is much more conservation focused. So to my knowledge, this is the first time they've taken this housing approach as a conservation organization. So it's really great to see a whole day around housing.
Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. Oh, let's see.
Judy, can I interrupt for a quick second?
Go ahead, Charles.
I'm on the board of the Northwest Connecticut Land Conservancy. That used to be known as Weantanog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have about 14,000 acres, and if I can be of any help with that, please let me know.
So you, that trust, what is it called now?
It's called, it's now called the Northwest Connecticut Land Conservancy. And our offices are in Kent, but most of the land is all Northwest Connecticut. So I can sort of be helpful in communicating with the board there. So it's the largest land conservancy in Connecticut now. So they do have a little bit of weight.
Mm-hmm.
But as we get involved in discussing this more, I can start bringing it up at the board level and just see what kind of reactions we get.
Is there any land in Washington that's conserved by them?
Yeah, there's land in Washington, not a whole lot. Most of it is sort of the New Milford, Sheridan areas, and then further up into Salisbury and areas like that. But
Yeah.
they do have land in Washington. But also from the point of view of being able to talk about land conservancies, allocating land for affordable housing, that's something that hasn't come up, at least in the meetings that I've been on the board now for a number of years. That's never been an issue that's come up, and it could be something new that could be discussed.
Right. Thank
Do you think the board would be interested in giving some back to the housing trust or housing community or whatever to?
I don't know, Daryl. I don't know. I think a lot's going to have to do with the long-term disposition of the land, because once the Land Conservancy takes it into trust, it's then forever kept out of development. So the whole idea, obviously, is to keep that land out of any development and also existing farms. So, for instance, we have about 48 farms that are part of the Conservancy. I haven't seen, as I said, I haven't heard any discussion about affordable housing and the possibility of allocating land for that. But I think a lot of it's just going to end up with the legality and the charter that they have from the state.
Well, the presenters did, you know, they emphasized that, you know, it takes time, first of all, to have this concept. You know, have the land trust be educated about this possibility. And then to develop trust between, you know, a housing commission, a housing trust and a land trust. And listening to each other, as, you know, their need, you know, both needs need to be considered for sure. I mean, I know here in our town of Washington, people value greatly the conserved land that we have. I mean, I personally do, using it all the time, love it. But we also need to, you know, think of the human needs
Right.
that we have too in town.
Well, our
So-
executive director is also chairwoman of the group that you went to listen to, the regional group. So she's Catherine Rawson is her name, and
Oh,
she'll be familiar with what you're discussing. If that group is talking about it, then she's going to be familiar with it. So I'll bring it up at our next board meeting and just see what kind of reactions I'll get.
I just wanted to add that I think a lot of the conversation at that meeting was also not as much about redesignating conserved land, but in moving forward together on new projects in a sustainable way, where if somebody's looking at donating, 20 acres, 2 acres are carved off for some affordable housing and the rest is conserved in a way that kind of meets everybody's needs, and working together on that partnership with the community in explaining those needs. So there's a lot of challenge going back and redesignating land that had been donated, but moving forward, recognizing that there's a more sustainable way to build our houses and to do some cluster housing, which is more affordable and sustainable, while conserving the rest of it is actually better for the land as well as for the construction of those homes. So instead of plopping one house on every 5 acres, you cluster the houses and you conserve a larger open space. And it's interesting because in the meeting this morning with the Regional Housing Council, Emily from COG said that where she worked before at a different COG, they had developed some sustainable land use options, and they have some models of that she said she would share. And I was gonna try to reach out to her. That's something that we've talked about, trying to give people a visualization of what that could look like and explaining why that's better for the environment, better for the housing, more sustainable. Because for the affordability of the homes, if you cluster your homes, there's less cost in the site development. So there's that, and whether you're sharing septic or there's whatever it is, it's more sustainable on that end as well. So there's ways to,
environmental, economically and environmental.
and I was just thinking, and I was speaking with Denise while we were at the conference, I was just thinking about knowing this community, how powerful a joint effort of Steep Rock and the Housing Commission or the Housing Trust would be. And it's like how that might be received very differently than us just going alone. If there's a project that they can show why it's environmentally better, and we can show how it's sustainable, but also provides affordable housing. We might make some more progress.
Right.
So,
I mean, at some point, we might want to invite some of the members to one of our meetings. And the Conservation Commission and the Planning Commission. I think we, in the future, we need to look for that. Any other questions or comments about that? Okay. So Woody and I have been working with the zoning commission on developing some multifamily housing regulations, which haven't existed for many years here in the town. And I was unable to go to the last meeting, but Woody was, and he's going to give us a report about the lab, where we are right now. It's taken a long time.
I think are beginning to head down the home stretch in terms of finalizing Washington's response to the legislation that was passed last year at the state level, PA 2129. There are, this is all allowing for some multifamily housing to be built in every municipality and town in the state. We've, on the subcommittee, generally, all of the land in Washington, with a couple of exceptions, we want to be fair game for the possibility, anyway, of the building of some multifamily housing. The exceptions are the Green, New Preston Village, and the area around the lake that is in our town. But there seems to be a general agreement that any such proposals will be required to come before the zoning commission with what's called a site plan review. Our lawyer, Mike Ziska, has outlined for the subcommittee that there are really three potential paths to any town approval of multifamily housing plans. The easiest or simplest would be by right, because the submission fits all the qualifications that will be in the zoning laws. A little more difficult would be by site plan. And I think in this case, every possible submission of a plan would have to go and get the approval of the zoning commission by providing a site plan and having it reviewed by the commission. The final access would be by special permit through a public hearing that involve be open to the members of the town. If there's any bottleneck to wrapping up the committee's work, from where I sit, I think it would be by in arriving at a consensus and agreement regarding which of those three pathways should be required in each case. Some of the committee members favor public hearings for any and all proposals that would involve multifamily housing. They're contending that this would be the only way in which true fairness and equity would be achieved. Otherwise, their argument goes, if some are approved by the commission without a public review, it'll be evidence of favoritism that those experiencing public scrutiny and debate will not enjoy. But there's a counter argument which seeks to ensure more equity and equality at the state level, I guess you'd say. Connecticut, we know, is experiencing this really a monumental housing crisis of extensive proportions, and it necessitates making laws like PA 2129 to make sure that those experiencing housing insecurity and housing costs surpassing, their normal income proportions, that they attain greater control and access over their shelter needs. And if the man who cuts the grass in our neighborhood, who grew up here in town and wants to live here but can't afford it, is forced to commute from his home in Torrington, how does he and his wife get a seat and a voice and a vote on these matters unless the commission protects the access that the state desires and is now going to require? So Attorney Ziska has cautioned the subcommittee that he suspects that the courts will not think favorably if any town pulls up the drawbridge too obviously in the form of multiple hurdles for any proposed multifamily housing effort. And it seems that having any and all efforts to put in multifamily housing have to pass through public hearings, in his word, would be overkill. So I don't know where this tension is going to finally resolve. I would say that the leadership of the subcommittee, Mr. Sully and
Janet Hill.
Mrs. Hill, are consensus seekers. We don't have votes. We keep talking and try to really come into a comedy over the whole thing. And so that's sort of where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
We're going to meet
Read the-
actually later this week on Thursday. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Having read the minutes from the last meeting, I agree with you, like
Woody, when's your next meeting?
Thursday.
This?
Yes,
What time?
3:00
5
here.
in that room where you were all sitting.
Is it 5? No, it's at 3. Oh, 3 to 5. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So.
So-
But if we built something that was affordable, doesn't matter. Right? So
Well,
let's
you
say,
can
let's
use
say.
830G to go
We
around
keep
that.
saying,
Yeah.
That's not quite. Let's say we got the boost to donate the land right
Not-
below the town garage. And we built, because it's already got power there, it's already got a full-blown septic system. Say they donated the land to the housing commission, the housing trust,
Oh,
whatever.
would that be nice?
And we built, say, a building that has 10 two-bedroom apartments. Because it's already got the infrastructure for it.
Nice.
Do we have to worry about anything? If we just go through and say, yes, we have to go through the building process and make sure everything's safe and everything, but do we need to worry about any on the zoning side? Can we just say, here it is, we're building 10 two-bedroom apartments, and they're gonna be low income, I hate that word, but you know, young family, low income, young family housing, whatever the state mandate is that we fall below $1,000 a month, $900 a month. I mean,
So my understanding is that the 830G, that you can do a friendly 830G. So you still go to zoning, but and they have some input, and I think you still have to follow wetlands and the health department and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that they have less, say, they have less input, because
Yeah.
830G
but
does allow
they
you to
couldn't
go
hold up,
around.
they couldn't hold up the process,
I
because
don't
again,
think
this,
so.
this
No.
place is already, I mean, because it was a full-blown restaurant, it's already got full-blown everything on it. So if you could get it.
I think it has. less-
I think you could just go to zoning and they would just approve it. I don't know, why wouldn't they?
Because it's difficult,
Because-
I mean.
Oh, well,
Because it's not, because it's.
yeah,
not
but I
allowed
mean,
under
as somebody
zoning
who serves on the zoning commission, I think everybody there is pro housing.
But it's not in the regulations yet.
It's not in the regulations, but that doesn't stop us from approving it.
and our
It
Does
would,
it?
but you
it's
would
only
use
gone up to 6, not 10. Maybe it should be more, but that seems to be where the comfortable median is sitting at the moment in our discussions.
Say it
What's
again.
that?
6 units within a single building for multifamily housing.
Oh, that's what they're currently discussing as the capacity
Within a single building.
within a single building in our regulations.
But
Yeah.
that is for all construction,
Yeah,
that could
yeah,
be
yeah.
market rate.
Right.
You know, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
also, I think, a great thing. We have, there's middle housing that's missing, for people downsizing and such. But if you're doing affordable, 830G allows you to go around,
Yeah, you wouldn't need to.
beyond zoning regs, as long as you meet the other requirements.
Woody, I think that would be a good question to ask at our next meeting.
Say it out again.
So Woody, and it, right up below the town garage on Beebrook Road. There's the park, used to be Tucker's Restaurant. Now Tucker's notoriously, had a huge septic system put in because it was a multi-stage restaurant. It's already got conduits underground across the main road for power. It's fully infrastructured, ready for anything. So if you could get the people who own it to donate it, with a nice big plaque saying, thank you, Mark and Lauren, for donating the Washington Young Family Housing Project, such and, subsidized, whatever, volunteer firefighters fund, however you want to put it.
That would be great.
Could you just go and build it without zoning having anything to do with it because you're building it all under the affordable statute?
Okay, I'll relay that question. Sounds,
Where? Oh,
I'm sorry?
I'm happy to relay that question. I was not aware of Tucker's being, but I think that is very good.
I
Find
think
out.
it's a great question.
I mean, going back to right in the center of town, we've got an apartment building right on the other side of the bridge. It's been there since 1952,
Right.
why not?
I think it's great. I mean, there's multiple septics on that property. Isn't there one for the house as well, like up on the hill? Or
There was, but I would just use the big modern
The big
one
one.
that's in the parking lot that would
Yeah.
hold a 10-bedroom facility.
that's awesome.
It's a great question. Chris, do you have a question? Your hand's up? Chris Charles?
Unmute.
Doesn't look like he's muted, but he's got his hand up.
Chris, are you muted? Okay.
Oh, well.
There we go.
Like he's just saying hi.
And his hand went up, and Chris is very familiar with 830G.
Yeah, I'm sure he actually probably knows.
He would know the
He's
answer.
probably tell you
He's
how to
probably
do it.
blowing up on his computer right now, trying to figure out a way to talk to us, but
Probably.
Well, if you
Okay.
figure it out, Chris.
Yeah,
Oh,
what was that?
that was my foot, but
Oh.
you muted and unmuted. We still can't hear you if you're saying anything.
Can we keep going?
Okay.
but that's 3 to 5 on Thursday.
Yes,
I have a question, Woody or Judy. I think this is wonderful. I appreciate your work on the PA 2129. I'm just curious about the rationale behind not allowing multifamily on the green and in New Preston, where we already have multifamily. I mean, usually we try to locate it in village centers. Because it's walkable and there's amenities or whatever it is. So I'm just curious why those two were taken out.
well, I think the green, because those homes that could actually be converted. Because they're old enough, they could be converted into multifamily.
Okay.
And-
Which is allowed in our regulations.
Yes, which is already lit.
That's right.
And in the
Okay.
Preston area, no,
Yeah, I'm just understanding. So you're saying since it's already allowed, they don't
Yeah.
need to add it to the thing.
and then,
I'm sorry, what regulation is that?
There's a regulation that it's houses that were built before, and I forget.
I don't remember the exact date, but
1950s?
they can be turned into
Yeah.
multi-family houses,
Yeah,
like apartments.
Really?
yeah.
Yes.
I have to look it up. I remember reading that.
Actually, I have the zoning regulations.
Now, what was the other thing you were gonna say, Judy?
and in Preston, we've been told that there really isn't any available land.
There's
In
not,
the
but why
Preston-
it's
in the Preston
included in case
Center.
something happens, like New Crescent, I mean, Church Street Apartments. Where the old Montessori school was, that's considered, like, I wonder what they're considering as New Preston.
We're contemplating treating each of the business centers to have a 100-foot skirt around a perimeter where it would be treated with a little more liberality, given its proximity to commerce and the need for staffing people to live nearby. That's also been on the table. I don't think we've finally settled anything.
No, but nothing's been said.
Right. It just seems that by excluding something, you don't know what might happen in the future. And if something were to come available. But whatever, I mean, I still think this is huge progress. But it just goes against the whole concentrating housing in the village centers.
I can tell you
It
that
does sound like it.
Woody and I have been pretty vocal about advocating for the affordable housing, correct, Woody? Thank you. We've been pretty vocal about
I hope,
advocating.
yeah,
for it.
that's our charge, really.
That's right.
I just want to call everyone's attention, Chris wrote into the chat that
Oh.
zoning reg 13.25 already allows affordable housing applications by the town or a nonprofit. So, so it's at, which I forgot, thank you, Chris. So you wouldn't even have to use 830G necessarily, because it allows
Yeah.
that, but,
It's allowed.
although why, but I know that the housing trust used 830G for the Vincent
Yes,
development.
definitely.
But
So-
didn't they split it though? Cause wasn't there
Yeah.
one house and then they split the land and put another one on it?
Yeah, so either way, there's an action.
Not split, is it? Is it just one big piece of property? three
No,
houses
it's
on it?
three, because it's,
So they split it up 3 times.
Right.
well,
Well, one house is already there.
one was there, they added two. Although the trust, it's like limited equity, so I think the way the mortgage, they're written is that the trust still owns the land.
Well, that's what's kind of screwy about the whole thought, putting a single family house on any particular, even the Baldwin Hill property. And I spoke to Judy about this a month ago, even the Baldwin Hill property, would we consider as the housing commission, housing trust, whatever, to build what's at the other end of Baldwin Hill, right on the Baldwin Hill 202 corridor, a 10 apartment building, a nice big colonial with the parking in the back you don't see from Baldwin Hill.
First, you
Yeah,
have to
okay,
have the feasibility study.
Right, no, I get it, but I'm just
You're saying put
you know,
that land to better use and try to
instead
get more,
of just one,
I like that,
Yes.
yeah,
put a 6-bedroom,
right.
put in a 6-bedroom septic system, put in a 6 2-bedroom units. And let 6 young family, single moms, single dads, whatever, live 2.5 miles or
If
2
that's,
miles
if
outside
that
of
was
it,
possible.
if it was possible.
I will just say one conversation I had with Bill Fairburn. I don't think he would be against that at all. However, the trust has been focusing more on these single family homes because they get less pushback from the community and, based on some of the history they have and the fight, how hard they had to fight to get Church Street. Which was their last big
That's like
project.
anything new, there's always gonna be a fight.
Yeah,
But
right.
Church Street has been there now for the best part of 20 years and.
and everybody's happy.
What's up there?
I know.
There's apartments up there? I didn't even know that,
Yeah.
Right.
Saying they wouldn't consider it. I'm just saying that the reason they sort of switched their focus is because they.
No, I get it. If you think about the shit show that was when they wanted to put the pivot house at the old boys club. When the guy spoke up about school buses and kids running kids over because they're gonna be, it's just. Seriously,
I know.
it's a furniture store. A really nice one. by the way.
Well, it makes sense to us. But
Right, so that, anyway, that was just the thinking behind what their recent projects were, because they got less pushback. But times have changed and people are feeling differently, so, let's see what it works for and, see what.
And then I
think.
think it would be good to have members of the housing trust come to our meeting and we can, convey our desires.
Yeah, especially if, since we're sort of, helping them out.
Yes.
and Floating them cash, so to
Yes.
speak, they should come.
That's our job. is to
See
have
us.
them. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, any other comments about that? That's an ongoing project.
First looks like he has 2 million.
Is there another one? Oh, no. Sorry.
You
No
got it.
update, no
Okay.
Okay, wait. 13.25, 830 was added by zoning it all. Projects guaranteed.
Talk to us, Chris.
Oh, 13.15, I keep mistyping, he's saying, he must be having issues with his mic,
He must be.
but thank you, Chris. For the correction there.
Thank you. Okay, we're under new business. I'll just report that I did meet with, Jim Britton about our budget and the selectmen supported it and it will go on to the finance committee and her commission. And we'll see where it goes from there. And
Judy, just like, what was the request for the capital? Did you do
50,000. Yeah,
Wonder does anybody here remember the history, what historically has been contributed? Did we ever do more than 50 in a year?
I wouldn't know. We did get 50 last year, they told me. Even
I
though,
thought it was
I
25.
know, I did too, and I put that down, and then Linda corrected me, so now we got 50.
Huh.
So. Yep,
I'm gonna look that up.
So that's good.
Interesting.
any other new business? Lindsay, do you have any more comments that you might like to make?
No, I think you covered it all. I was going to chime in during the conservation discussion, but I think Michelle basically said what I would have said, that the focus should probably be moving forward future acquisitions as opposed to looking
Yeah.
at already conserved land, which can be, you know, that it's conserved in perpetuity for most of the time.
All right,
So just reiterating that.
and Chris, do you have anything else you want to say? No, okay. Anybody here have any new business? Okay, we're done.
Wow.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, okay, we are adjourned at 6:20.
So this is what we're talking about, Daryl. That's the regulation.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.